I'd now like to introduce Chris Sayner, Vice President of Customer Alliances, to give us the customer perspective. Chris, over to you.
Thanks, Steve. We sell over 7,000 ingredients to over 17,000 customers. Our acquisitions have brought new customers, who expanded the customer base for those companies we've acquired. Our global selling network and direct customer focus, our direct customer contact with multiple touch points, R&D, product development, regulatory, sustainability, commercial, every hour of every day delivers an unrivaled level of customer intimacy. Across all of our businesses, this provides immediate insights into customer and consumer needs and fuels our innovation. And the output from this, customer and consumer benefit. Every day, our smart science is improving lives. From the moment we wake up, unseen Croda technology touches virtually every one of us every day, from infancy to old age. Each year, the majority of personal care products produced in the world contain Croda ingredients. Our lanolins are used in nappy creams, major brands worldwide, providing 700 million applications each year. Our surfactants in over 270 million bottles of baby shampoo, delivering up to 7 billion applications. And our vaccine adjuvants, improving the efficacy of 2.5 billion vaccines. Jen Hart and Nick Challoner are going to speak more about consumer benefits and our targets around SDG 3, good health and well-being. This slide is about engagement and influence in the supply chain. With commodity suppliers on the left, customers on the right, we sit firmly in the center as a critical link with tools to positively influence and drive ingredient and supplier selection. GRI, EcoVadis, CDP, science-based targets provide third-party external validation of our sustainability credentials. GRI, the Global Reporting Initiative, standardized reporting framework, but not everyone reports to the same indicators. Raw material footprint is an indicator where we stand virtually alone in reporting the percentage of renewable raw material consumption. This is a fundamental point of difference, placing us firmly in pole position to meet the increasing bio-based targets set by our customers across many industries. For example, L'Oréal's target to achieve 95% bio-based formulations by 2030, and similarly with Natura. Where these companies lead, the rest of the industry follows. EcoVadis. We have 9 years of reporting to EcoVadis on environment, labour and human rights, ethics and sustainable procurement, which over the period has seen our score increase from 58, already the gold level, gold standard, to 83. And this puts us in the top 1% of all companies assessed. Used by many customers to judge our sustainability credentials. We also use EcoVadis to judge the sustainability and risk in our supply chains, targeting assessment of suppliers representing 60% of our raw material spend. CDP reporting, this began as the Carbon Disclosure Project, with greenhouse gas emissions reporting way back in 2002. It's been extended to include water, forest and supply chain. With just over 100 companies reporting to CDP, we are on common ground with L'Oréal, Johnson & Johnson, Unilever, Braskem, Bayer. These customers ask for the greenhouse gas emissions associated with the total ingredient volume we've supplied globally in the previous year. And in providing this information, we are also highlighting greenhouse gas reduction opportunities such as low-carbon bio-based eco-surfactants and carbon-negative smart materials. Science-based targets. Julia's talked about the greenhouse gas emissions embedded in supply chain. Our customers committed to science-based targets need suppliers equally committed to science-based targets in order to achieve their greenhouse gas reduction targets. Unilever, Johnson & Johnson, Henkel, Braskem, L'Oreal, Estée Lauder, Bayer, Seventh Generation, Syngenta, all are committed to science-based targets. The ASD logo you can see in the center of the slide is Action for Sustainable Derivatives. Under the management of Business for Social Responsibility and Transitions, we are founder members of this industry coalition, along with L'Oreal, Beiersdorf, The Body Shop, Estée Lauder, Henkel, and others, to work together to ensure progress to fully sustainable and deforestation-free palm derivative sourcing. This is a perfect example of UN SDG 17 Partnership for the Goals. And beyond transparency, within the ASD, we're working on positive impact, looking at restorative projects, social accountability, smallholder inclusion, and protection of high conservation forest. With RSPO certification, our leadership is acknowledged by customers and suppliers. With several hundred raw materials we consume from over 100 suppliers into 14 of our manufacturing locations, all are RSPO certified plants. And we have 100% transformation to RSPO in sight within this year. And although led by personal care, this 100% conversion of all of our raw materials and all of the ingredients manufactured from those raw materials is to all industries, not limited to our consumer businesses, but all of the industries we serve. And most importantly, down at the bottom of the slide, UN SDG 17, Partnership for the Goals. This represents the necessary collaboration and effectively how supply chains are becoming increasingly synchronized and coalescing around the SDGs and science-based targets with the ultimate goal of achieving end-to-end integrity and greater positive impact. We listen carefully to our customers and we develop metrics and targets that shape ingredient and supplier selection, and we proactively contribute to our customers' goals. I'd like now to introduce two customers, Bayer and Henkel, to give us their perspectives. Bayer is a global life science company with leading businesses in the area of healthcare and agriculture. Guided by its purpose, Science for a Better Life, Bayer is leveraging science and innovations to improve people's lives and find solutions to some of the major challenges of our time. Within Bayer, the corporate enabling functions support all of the operational businesses. We're very pleased to introduce Kira Constance Powley, Head of Strategy and Impact Programs, together with Thomas Uderson, Chief Procurement Officer for the Bayer Group, give their insight, provide their insights on their sustainability commitments.
Thanks for having me. So at Bayer we have integrated sustainability into our normative and our strategic compass. So starting from our purpose of science for a better life, to our vision, health for all and hunger for none, to our values that drive the company, sustainability is ever present and an important enabler. We do also have sustainability included into our businesses that we do have in crop science, in pharmaceuticals, and consumer health, with very measurable targets that I'm happy to outline in a minute. Also, sustainability is a value lever. We don't only have a view on the risk perspective, but also see it as a value enabler, a value lever, drive future growth. We also have included sustainability into the processes, into the compensation schemes of the company, which makes it very powerful and underlines the seriousness of Bayer. We stand for our vision in terms of health for all and hunger for none, and that's leading what we do in everyday life. In terms of sustainability, we are very committed to create value in line with the SDGs. We have two major components of how we create value. The one thing is help people thrive, so to drive inclusive growth also in those regions that are currently underserved. And on the other hand, to decrease the ecological footprint along the entire value chain with the overarching objective to result in sustainable industry sectors. That's all well aligned with the overall SDG contributions that we have. At Bayer, we have outlined 7 SDGs where we have a major impact on. So starting from no poverty, zero hunger, about the effects on health and well-being, gender equality, reduced water consumption, climate action, and life on land. That's very powerful and also describes nicely the impact that we do have with our pure business, with sustainability included, the impacts on sustainable development. So we have set ourselves very concrete targets for the year 2030 that are geared towards impact generation in line with the SDGs. And those targets that are related to access to health, to food security, smallholder empowerment along with our crop business, on women empowerment across the businesses, and on the environmental side. In kind of every company, hopefully in these days, it's all about decarbonization based on the climate emergencies. And it's also about further environmental impact reduction, especially when it comes to water, biodiversity, and packaging. All of that is based on a foundation of responsible business conduct and good corporate governance. So that's the concept of how we perceive and how we do sustainability at Bayer. And as said, we have very measurable targets that are geared towards 2030, and these are very ambitious. So in terms of helping people thrive, we have commitments to help 100 million smallholders in low middle income countries to make a living, to reduce poverty here and increase their yields and their livelihoods. Also, we want to expand self-care in the areas of underserved communities, also to 100 million people. Contraception is also one of the targets where we believe we have a major impact on sustainable development in the world. It's also about the affordability of the products that we do increase, especially in the pharmaceuticals area where there's a major benefit on people's lives in terms of health. For the ecological footprint side, we are having a science-based target on our climate commitments. And as those who are familiar would know, it's along the entire value chain. So own operation, where we strive for carbon neutrality until 2030, it includes Scope 3 emissions with our suppliers with significant reductions. On top of that, we also have committed to reducing the emissions on the farmers' fields that are also a significant contributor of overall greenhouse gas emissions. This alongside also with further environmental footprint reductions in our businesses is very powerful, and we hope that we can contribute with our not that tiny businesses at sustainable development. Of course, we can't do that all of our own. It's ambitious targets, and as it's kind of inherent in the SDGs with the goal number 17 of partnering, we do need partnerships. We can't do it alone. Nobody is an island, so are we. And we need the partnerships, and the suppliers and the customers are important partners. And with that, I'd like to hand over to Thomas.
Thanks, Kira. Yeah, so let me maybe build on that. And first of all, I want to say that we as Bayer have been a good customer and a proud customer of Croda over the last many years. So of course, my team is constantly engaging with the Croda counterparts also to make sure that some of the value propositions, the products, are also helping us to achieve those targets. But maybe if I could share 4 aspects that I think are critical also for you to take with you into this joint journey that we have towards more sustainable practices. And And I can start with the first, and it's not really a differentiator any longer. It's linked with our code of conduct, where of course we do expect that you as a company, but also your own supply chain, is operating according to the standards that we want to adhere to. And here we talk about environmental practices, we talk about social practices, but of course also how you are engaging with your suppliers economically. And I think that's almost an entry ticket for any company. And as we're looking at our supply base, we will of course continue to assess that. As Kira was mentioning, we have signed up for really ambitious goals when it comes to our own greenhouse reductions linked to scope 1 and 2, which is our own operation, but equally so with scope 3, which is our supply chain. And of course here Croda becomes a key player. And here my message to you is to really start reduce your carbon emissions as in immediately. We have here bold targets, and I think our way of assessing our partners for the future is to which extent we believe they are capable or interested in also reducing their own carbon emissions. So there's a big game around carbon emissions that I would strongly advocate that you engage with very, very quickly. I would also say that we wouldn't want to see you go on your own. We would encourage you to engage with the other industry players. Bayer was founding Together for Sustainability in 2011, and it started from a chemical-focused industry initiative where we share assessment and audits of 6 companies. And since then, in the last 9 years, we have grown to be now 26 members with a spend of more than 200 billion, really collaborating with our joint suppliers, where we are today looking at around 10,000 suppliers actively in the main production areas. We would have liked to see that Croda is also engaging with this initiative so that we can jointly make sure we have both resilient but also sustainable supply chains. And then the last part is around your products and your solutions. Here you have already a proud history, and we totally recognize that around looking at bio-based materials. We of course would like you to continue your journey here, expanding that and move away from raw materials that are fossil-based. But we also think that you could have a bigger game when it comes to solutions around the circular economy, where your innovation will help us as well as other players in reducing the environmental footprint we have in the society where we operate. So those would be my 4 messages to you. Code of conduct, make sure we are all operating at the right high level. Make sure that you reduce the carbon emissions as of immediately. Engage with the rest of us in the chemical industry. You don't have to do everything on your own. We are happy to help in building resilience and sustainable supply chains, and then really continue your past practice around innovation in terms of the products and the services that you also offer. So that would be my 4 wishes to you as the team progresses into a hopefully better and more sustainable future. And I really also want to thank Croda and the team, because getting to the ratings that you have achieved over the last years in EcoVadis of 83, I mean, that of course puts you at the top of the chemical industry. There is no doubt. So of course you have very mature practices, and I think that's something that's good and something that you need to build on. So glad that you are committed here. What of course is interesting, and that's a dynamic that I think you will also see towards your own suppliers, is that with the science-based targets, there is no doubt that we will use your carbon emissions as the final decision-making criteria for whether we will extend more business with you or somebody else, as we typically would have had the price, the quality, the reliability as factors that you would inform your purchasing decisions. Carbon track record is now becoming a real currency, if you will. And I think that's where companies' decisions will be made towards the ones that have a track record of also delivering on their emissions. So again here, I know you have good plans, and I'm encouraged by that. But also, you need to do that, because if the companies that don't do that, somebody else will eat your lunch, and that's just the reality of the game we are entering.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Henkel operates worldwide with leading innovations, brands and technologies in 3 business areas: adhesive technologies, beauty care, laundry and home care. Founded almost 150 years ago, the first product was a laundry detergent, and today Henkel occupies globally leading market positions in their consumer and industrial businesses. It's my pleasure to introduce Uwe Bergmann, Head of Global Sustainability Management with Henkel, to discuss the purpose that unites all in Henkel, creating sustainable value, and provide insights on commitment to science-based targets with focus on greenhouse gas emissions in supply chains, targets and expectations from suppliers, and supply chain integrity. As a leading global home and personal care consumer products company, farm derivatives feature in Henkel's supply chains as they do with everyone else. Managing that integrity of that particular supply chain, transparency, certification, and an insight into the requirements on suppliers.
Thank you very much, Chris, for your very kind introduction, and thank you very much for the opportunity to present at your investor seminar. Sustainability for us is about responsibility, but it's also about shaping our future, and I'm very glad that I get to share our perspectives today. Creating sustainable value is deeply rooted in our history. We started taking care of our employees with the first aid center in 1912, and it's been also deeply connected to our product and innovation history. You mentioned our detergent as a basis of our company. In 1986, we launched our first phosphate detergent, and we've also been reporting on environment and later sustainability since 1992. So for us, it's not a new topic at all. It's part of our history, of our DNA, and of our strengths. And that also motivated us to include sustainability in our strategic framework as part of our competitive edge. We want to anchor sustainability in all what we do and use it to strengthen our competitive position. The basis of our strategy that we're pursuing at the moment in terms of sustainability is to focus on delivering more value while reducing our footprint. When we developed that strategy in 2010, the global population was already using more than 1.5 times more resources than are available on this planet. And projections showed that with 9 billion people, or more than 9 billion people in 2050, we would need 5 planets. So for Henkel, for us at Henkel, it was clear that we needed to find ways to deliver more value for this growing population, as well as obviously for our customers and shareholders, while reducing our footprint. And that's the basis of our strategy, where we define the target to become 3 times more efficient by 2030. We translated that ambition to deliver more value at a reduced footprint into 6 focal areas that we draw progress on, and that includes social progress, the performance, health and safety on the value side, as well as energy and climate, materials and waste, and water and wastewater on the footprint side. And those already illustrate the topics that Chris mentioned in the introduction. Now, overall, we've been pursuing that strategy for 10 years now, but we see a clear need to accelerate progress. And that's why we defined new and ambitious targets for 2025 earlier this year. And that was, on the one hand, to accelerate our drive towards climate positive by reducing the CO2 emissions in our own production, as well as working with customers and suppliers to save carbon an additional 100 million tons over the 10 years running up to 2025. Circular economy is a key priority for us, though maybe not as relevant in our common business relationship. There we want to drive towards 100% recyclable or reusable packaging, 50% reduction in fossil-based virgin plastics and zero plastics into nature. And again, an area of common interest, social progress. Chris, you mentioned it, the focus on 100% responsible sourcing. At Henkel, we work on driving that forward with 50,000 engaged employees, and the positive social contribution that we want to have on 20 million lives globally. Now we drive that strategy along the entire value chain, from raw materials to disposal. It covers all of our operations on 6 continents. It covers suppliers from 120 countries, and together we want to work to contribute to sustainable development, starting from raw materials all the way to the use of our products, and finally disposal and recycling. Now, responsible sourcing is a key base of all of our activities. We want to drive sustainability on the one hand, and on the other hand, mitigate risks to our company reputation, but also on our economic perspectives. This is all based on a responsible sourcing policy and a responsible sourcing process. And in that process, for us, a key initiative is Together for Sustainability, where we create synergies across the chemical industry and support collaboration for sustainable supply chains. In Together for Sustainability, we share the initial assessments we do together using the platform EcoVadis. That way, we can cover our supply base much more efficiently, both from our perspectives as well as from our suppliers' perspectives. But it's not just about maintaining standards, it's also about driving progress on key commodities where we face specific issues. And one key commodity for us is sustainable palm, or more specific, palm kernel oil. Here, Henkel has the target to achieve 100% mass balance certified products. And in that, we really depend on our suppliers providing us with, for example, surfactants that are then based on mass balance certification. We also know that there's limits to certification, and therefore we're driving towards full traceability to known sources along our value chains that need support from all of our suppliers. And here, the Action for Sustainable Derivatives, ASD, is a key initiative to bundle resources in the industry and create transparency. Finally, we also want to have a positive impact beyond the sourcing, a direct impact on the ground. And that's why we early on started to collaborate with partners from the NGO world to work together with smallholder farmers to increase their productivity, to help them implement sustainable farming techniques, and that way increase the volume of sustainable palm oil available on the market equal to Henkel's demand. We've made great progress on all of those 3 dimensions, and therefore I'd like to move on towards the next topic that Chris raised, that is climate. Obviously, our responsibility starts with our own operations. That's why we focus on resource-efficient operations. That means continuously increasing energy efficiency, and at the same time switching to renewable energy wherever possible. For the time being, that's easiest in terms of electricity, but we're also looking at thermal fuels. Here, the target is to reduce our carbon footprint by 65% until 2025 compared to the base year 2010. These targets have been approved by the Science Based Targets initiative. That gives all of our stakeholders, investors, as well as the public, the assurance that our targets are in line with the global needs to reduce global warming down to 1.5 degrees. The main focus is reducing our Scope 1 and 2 greenhouse gas emissions. And here we aligned the timelines of our own targets with those of the Science Based Targets initiative. In that context, it's 67% by 2030 compared to 2017. That includes 100% renewable energy by 2030. And very important for our common business relationship, we also want to work and need to work on our Scope 3 greenhouse gas emissions from purchased goods and services. Together with our suppliers, we want to reduce those by 30% until 2030 from a 2017 base year onwards. But we don't just work with our suppliers to reduce our footprint. We also want to work with our suppliers to drive the right innovations, to leverage our brands and technologies to help our customers and consumers save CO2 and have a positive impact on the climate. And this includes many areas. Intelligent material replacements, where Henkel works on cross-laminated timber. We provide the adhesives for that and can replace cement in buildings. We help to enable lightweight vehicle design through surface treatments. With the right adhesives, we enable more efficient renewable energy. We work on repair and renovation, for example, more efficient pumps with our coatings. energy-saving buildings, but also less hot water usage in households. And with all of those solutions from our portfolio, we help our customers and consumers reduce their CO2 emissions by 43.5 million tons over the time period from 2016 to 2019. To sum it up, we need to accelerate our progress and drive powerful impacts by acting now for tomorrow. We need to create more value while reducing our environmental footprint with our brands and technologies, in our operations and along the value chain. In cooperation with our partners around the globe, and our suppliers play a key role in that. Thank you very much for inviting me to present here today, and I hope you have a nice event.
Thank you very much indeed.